Okay.
Okay, so a little bit about Tim. Tim has enjoyed science since he was old enough to read. Having worked in technical fields all his life, he shares his love of science with readers weekly in the Expositor. In his life, he has worked on projects as diverse as computerization of railway locomotives, electric traction control systems, and he also designed electronic warfare systems for the Canadian Navy. He's been involved in the internet since he started a free net program that brought internet service to the city of Brantford. So now it's up to you, Tim, to educate us on AI. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I do want to start by apologizing for my absence. The last time we tried to do this, I that morning we had a fire at Rosewood, and I found myself needed other places. So I want to apologize for that, and hopefully I can make up for that during this presentation. Now, I want to talk about AI and what it can mean to the lives of seniors. Now, AI is a huge topic. It's a brand new topic, and the difficulty is we have really no idea where it's going to go because I mean, go back to the dawn of the airplane in 1903 when the Wright brothers first flew their plane. And if you were to ask the average person, oh, there's this newfangled invention, the airplane, what's that going to do in 100 years? Well, less than 100 years, probably about 60, 66 years or so, we went from taking our first flight at Kitty Hawk in the United States to landing on the moon. So who would have realized that we would have gotten that far so quickly? And we're kind of at the Wright brothers stage in terms of AI. And there are a lot of things that we can see, possibilities that we can see, and things that it can do. But we have, I believe, really no idea of uh, what is in store for us in terms of AI. Now, I've been asked to sort of make this presentation about AI as it relates to seniors. And uh, so I focused on that. But I want you to understand that AI is a huge topic. It has applications in just about every aspect of life that you can imagine, not just for seniors, but for young people, for the military, for science and research, for medicine. There are tremendous uh, things that can be done with AI. And we're only just starting to see, as they used to say, through a glass darkly at the possibilities of AI. Now, if I can make this go to my next slide. There we go. All right. So, what is AI? I guess that's the first question. And it's a new technology, and I think those of you who've been around long enough that you were at the dawn of computers, back in the Stone Age, like I was, that they called computers electronic brains, and that was always mislabeled. Um, Computers and human brains work so completely differently. Computers are brilliant at tasks like mathematics and sorting things and doing these tasks that human brains find very difficult to do. But they are dumb. They are as dumb as a sack of hair when it comes to actually thinking and understanding things. They do not think, they do not understand. And that's because of the way they're organized. Computers are organized as what they call stored program machines. You put a program into it, and the computer executes instruction after instruction after instruction until it gets to the end. It'll take inputs, it'll take data, it'll do whatever you want with that data, but it will not understand anything that it's doing. The human brain, on the other hand, is a vast network. It's one of the most complicated things in the universe. I'm not just talking about human brains, I'm talking about any brain. you have little cells called neurons that can have as many as 100 connections out each neuron, or sometimes more. And they're connected to all these other neurons, and they're put together in this vast network of connections within the brain. And that connection of things allows us to do things that computers find very difficult. We can make easy connections. I'll give you a good example. If you were to create a computer system that, let's say, worked on a subway system, and you wanted to know whether a platform had lots of people on it, just a few people, or nobody on it, because you want to time your trains to meet the demand. Well, the problem is, if you give that task to a computer, the computer's got to take the image of the station. It's got to analyze it completely and try and figure out whether there's somebody there or somebody not. And it's a very, very complex algorithm that they have to go through in order to do that. And computers find tasks like that very difficult. Whereas a 4-year-old child could look at a subway platform and tell you whether there are people on it or not. We do that with an ease that is amazing when you think about it in computer terms. Well, artificial intelligence is the blending of the speed and power of the computer and the interconnectedness of the human brain. And we're only now getting to the stage where you can talk about computers as electronic brains, because what they do, they organize themselves internally in something they call a neural net. And really, it's just a bunch of connections. Now, in a stored program computer, you have to program it. You have to tell it every single step and exactly what to do. With a neural net, you don't program it. There's no programming in artificial intelligence. What you do is you teach it in almost exactly the same way that you teach a child. You teach a child that, okay, if you touch this stove, it's hot and it's going to burn you. And after a while of burning themselves a couple of times, the child is going to make the connection that touching that stove is bad. Well, in a neural network and artificial intelligence, it does the same thing. If you want to train it to recognize the picture of a dog, you show it hundreds and hundreds of pictures or thousands of pictures of dogs. And you say, this is what a dog looks like. And it makes internal connections inside this neural network. And eventually it gets to the point where it can recognize a dog. And then you start showing it pictures of cats, of cars, of anything else, and it'll be able to tell the difference. So you don't program them, you train them, you teach them. And that's an area of big controversy right now. But in the format that we're talking about in terms of seniors, it's a great way to make your life a lot easier. You know, as we get older, sadly, we start taking medications. And sometimes it's tough to remember, well, geez, did I take those this morning or did I not? AI can remind you of those things. In your house situation, AI can help you with various things. If you put the right equipment in place, you can tell an AI you want a light turned on or off, and it will do it. And it can also provide you with some safety. The other day, or not the other day, about 6 weeks ago, no, actually longer than that, probably about 2 months ago, I was working on building a gazebo in my backyard, and I had a fall off a ladder. And it's funny, you know, when you're in a fall, your sense of time gets warped. And as you're falling, you know, you're thinking, that's going to really hurt when I hit down there. And so and my phone has an AI thing inside it, so that if I fall, it'll call my daughter and say, hey, your stupid father did something really dumb. You better see if he's okay. And that activated. And next thing I know, my daughter was there wondering, what happened? Are you okay? By the way, that's how you know you're getting older. When you're young and you fall down, your friends are going to laugh at you. When you're older and you fall down, your friends are very concerned for your health. So once everybody found out I was okay, they talked about how stupid I was to be doing that at my age. Anyway, we can find AI anywhere, and it's being put into more and more products. You know, smartphones. If anybody here has Alexa or Google in their house, uh, that's mostly run by AI now. I mean, the mere fact that it can recognize voice commands is remarkable in terms of a programming feat. There are things to remind you to take medications, things you can use to track your diet, your heart rate, all these sorts of things. And they're designed um, to help you manage your life. That's probably the most important thing. So the key ideas that I want you to take away from this is that technology is becoming more and more a part of people's lives. And technology is something that seniors are notoriously bad at. And it's unfortunate that that's true, because technology will end up with a little bit of front end work and learning about how the technology works. You can make your life a lot easier down the road. And there are also a lot of things that people are concerned about, seniors. I mean, obviously, their health, people are concerned about that. They're concerned about isolation, seniors being isolated in their homes, and their independence, their ability to do things for themselves. And also keeping our minds sharp. Those are all things that AI and technology can help you with. So let's talk about daily living support. People who have lived for quite a long time probably are quite astounded at things like skip the dishes and DoorDash. I mean, you never have to cook anything in your house. You can just pick up the phone or pick up your smartphone or whatever. You can text or you can talk to somebody, and they'll deliver food right to your door. And that's all assisted by artificial intelligence, the ability to do that, to plan routes to get you your food while it's still hot. And also, artificial intelligence can be used to help plan your meals. It can help you decide, okay, I'm going to go shopping this week, and here are some things I'd like to have. And the AI knows what your preferences are. It knows what, like, I have a refrigerator that if I tell it everything that I put into it, it'll suggest recipes and meals that can be made with the ingredients that are in my fridge. And that's all done with artificial intelligence. Household chores. That's another area where seniors have difficulty with. Well, they have little robotic vacuums, Roombas. I will tell you, cats love to ride on them. Check out YouTube videos of cats riding on vacuum cleaners, and you'll get some pretty amusing things. But these little devices sit in the corner, they recharge themselves, and at night they come out and they vacuum up your floor. They get to know the layout of your house, and they'll do all your vacuuming for you. You'll never have to worry about it again. And it's appliances like that that reduce the strain on you in terms of keeping your house, and this will allow you to stay in your home longer. Health. That, of course, is a big one. As we get older, people get more and more concerned about their health. And there are all kinds of AI solutions that can help you. Like I've got a smartwatch that I wear, and it tracks my blood pressure, my body temperature, my heart rate. It'll do an electrocardiogram for me that I can share with my doctor. It'll count the number of steps that I take every day. And if I want to do a workout, there's a grim prospect, doing a workout. But if I want to do a workout, it'll track all of those factors for me and help me understand, what good I may have gotten out of the pain that I'm likely to suffer later from doing the workout. Hearing aids. As we get older, our hearing doesn't go. I've often thought that was a blessing that evolution gave men anyway, that as they got older, they lost the high frequencies in their ears, and most women's voices are higher frequencies. So as men get older, they can't hear their wives telling them what they need to do. And at my age, I can afford to make a sexist joke like that. So there you go. But they have smart hearing aids now that not only will replace the frequencies you have trouble hearing, but they'll also filter out noise. Like you can be in a crowded room. One of the old problems of the old hearing aids were they amplified everything. So you could be in a crowded room with conversations going all around. You could have trouble concentrating on the person who's right in front of you. Well, the new smart hearing aids will filter all that stuff out, reduce the level of the conversational noise around you, and allow you to focus on the person that's right in front of you. Speech recognition. There's a lot of stuff. Google and Alexa are probably the best examples, or even your smartphone. You can tell your smartphone what it is that you want to do. And the fact it can recognize your voice. I mean, that's a wonderful thing. And if anybody knows who Stephen Hawking is, Stephen Hawking was a physicist who became severely affected with ALS, or more commonly called Lou Gehrig's disease, and it slowly paralyzes the muscles. And in his last days, he was a lecturer at Cambridge, and his voice was almost completely unintelligible. Unless you had worked with him for years, you couldn't understand what he was saying. But he eventually ended up with an AI voice machine that could take the sounds that he was able to make and convert them into regular speech that everybody could understand. And this wasn't a simple thing like, I'm hungry, or move me over, or do this, or do. He was delivering physics lectures. So you can imagine what that must take in terms of processing power. Of course, apps for medication reminders. As we get older, we need more medications. And sometimes these medications have a very complex dosage regimen that, it's sometimes hard to remember. Well, okay, I take this 4 times a day, and what times of the day do I take it? Do I take 2 in the morning and then one each the rest of the day? Or sometimes medication things can be very complex, and you can have little machines that can hold your pills and will beep at you and tell you which one to open and what to take whenever. One of the best things that's come along is something called telemedicine. And you may have become familiar a little bit with this during the pandemic, when people stayed home, doctors' offices were mostly closed. They did telephone appointments, and you could do a Zoom appointment just like this, and you could sit and talk to your doctor. He's in his office, you're at home. You can tell him what your symptoms are, and he can prescribe something for you to help you remove the suffering from your symptoms. And that's even more important when you consider there are communities, particularly in Canada, that are a long, long way. Some of the communities up north are 24 hours away from being the nearest hospital, and they need medical help. And probably the most startling thing is that people have been operated on remotely. I want you to think about this. You have your surgeon, who is an expert cardiologist, and he's in Germany, in Frankfurt, and you're in Toronto, and you go to a hospital in Toronto, and you're going to be operated on by a robot that's controlled by an artificial intelligence that's being directed by a device in Germany, and it's going through the internet, and he's opening you up, and he's stopping your heart, he's fixing whatever it is, he's closing it all up and restarting your heart. That's been done. That's been done several times. I wouldn't say that it's common yet, but it's certainly something that's possible. And again, if you put some of these facilities in the more rural areas where you don't have the high-tech facilities that hospitals have, you could save lives that way. And all of that is a result of the AI and computer revolution. I've already spoken about fall detection. The other thing that people get worried about with seniors is social connectivity. As you get older, in some ways you can understand it. Your kids get older, they have their own families, they have their own lives, and you remember what it was like when you were in your 20s and 30s, and you gotta get the job. The kids need this. There are a lot of things that are going on in your life at that age, and you don't necessarily think about your parents or your grandparents. And sometimes they get isolated. And probably the best thing that this kind of technology can do is to keep people from being isolated by making communication easy. I mean, we all have smartphones now. We're used to texting. You can send a text message instantly. In fact, one of the things I've noticed is that people are reluctant to use the telephone. There are some people I know that will not call me unless they text me first and say, is it okay if I call you? Are you up for a call? Which from somebody that, grew up in the 50s and 60s. I find that somewhat bizarre, but still, that's kind of the polite way to do things these days, I guess. We're using one of these technologies. Think about the inconvenience if you all had to get yourselves dressed and schlep your way down to a building downtown someplace and sit and listen to some guy like me drone on about some subject that you're probably only partially interested in. I mean, that's a lot of trouble to go through for not a lot of benefit. Whereas here you can sit at home in your pajamas and you can sit and watch. I mean, this type of communication is easy. It's second nature. And again, a lot of it's driven by AI. Now, I noticed that this presentation is being recorded. Well, in my own business, I often use AI, like my board meetings are held all through Zoom. And I have an AI assistant that logs in and basically takes notes of everything that was said in the Zoom meeting. So preparing minutes for the meeting is really easy. As soon as this thing's over, it sends me an email, and I could get a transcript if I wanted. I could get a summary. I could get a list of the action items, and all done by no human agency at all. It's just simply done by a computer. Now, voice assistants, Google, it's very easy to take these things and say, I want you to call my daughter. And it knows who your daughter is. It knows what her phone number is and just dials it for you. And you can speak to them just like a speakerphone right from your Alexa or your Google speaker. And those things are becoming more and more common. In fact, my entire house is filled with these devices. I can turn lights on, lights off. I'm going to give you a little demonstration a little bit later. More recently, however, with AI has come the idea of virtual companionship. Now, again, people our age, it might strike us somewhat bizarre that you could talk to a computer. Back in the 1980s, I guess it was, there was a computer program that came out called Liza. And this program was, it almost acted like a psychiatrist. You could say, good morning. And it would say, hi, my name's Liza. How are you feeling today? And then you'd say, well, I feel kind of down today. And then Liza would say, really, you're feeling down, you say? Tell me about that. And it would just sort of keep prompting you to talk about yourself. It wasn't really interested in what you had to say or anything else. It just used what you said to prompt you to ask another question. Well, now we have AI today that is far, far more complex. And you can actually have conversations with it. And it's not, you don't have to type anything in. There's a Chat GPT and there's Gemini, Claude, and a couple of others that are the big ones. And you can actually hold conversations with them. In fact, in many ways, it's difficult to tell that you're not talking to a person. There was a guy named Alan Turing who invented the whole concept of the stored program computer that we have created. And he created something called the Turing test. And if you could sit down at a terminal, in those days you had to type, but if you could sit down and communicate with somebody on the other end of that terminal, and you couldn't tell whether it was a computer or whether it was a person, that would pass the Turing test. I think AI is way past the ability to pass the Turing test. I had a 20-minute conversation with ChatGPT about the meaning of life. And the topic ranged like it was like talking to a very smart college professor who knew all about the philosophy, the history, everything about what the meaning of life is. And it was actually an interesting and engaging conversation. So if the idea of talking to a computer is somewhat strange to you, once you've tried it, I can assure you it will be something that you will want to look into because it's very interesting. Mobility and transportation. Has anybody, well, I guess I can't really ask questions in this, but we now have autonomous vehicles that drive themselves. And a friend of mine owns a Tesla. and he let me drive it one time, and it was set up for autonomous driving. And driving these cars is really strange. You almost don't use the brake. The accelerator, if you push it down, it goes like stink. If you pull it back, it actually brakes the car. It doesn't put the brakes on. It uses the motors to generate electricity and put back in the battery, but that slows you down. Um, but it's got an autonomous driving mode where you can press a button and the car will drive itself. You can say, I'm at home now, I want to go to Walmart. And it will look up where the nearest Walmart is, and you press the button and it'll start driving the car. It looks at the traffic, it pays attention to what's around it, it'll drive the car. Now it's a little bit like driving with your Aunt Fanny, who really does not, is one of these really cautious old lady drivers that men in hats yell at a lot. But it drives very cautiously, keeps up with the traffic, does everything, and it will take you right to your destination. Now imagine you've done your shopping at Walmart and you've got a bunch of stuff. You don't want to lug it out to your car, wherever it is. You open up your phone, you press a couple buttons on your phone, your car starts up and drives to right where you are, right in front of where you are. It's like having valet parking no matter where you go. And as seniors get older, as I think when you get 80, you've got to have a driving test every year or 2 years, something like that. This would allow people to keep some of their independence. Now, legislators are still a little bit stupid about this technology. It's been proven time after time after time that these devices are far safer drivers than the average person. The difficulty is that the lawmakers say, well, I want a licensed driver sitting behind the wheel with his hand on the wheel, kind of ready to take control. Now, I want you to think about this concept. My car is not self-driving, and it has about 50 computers in that car. A self-driving computer could have up to 200. And these computers run at maybe 3 billion instructions per second. They're analyzing radar data from the car. They're analyzing camera data from the car. They're looking at everything that this car does. And suddenly the car gets into such a state that it can't figure out what to do. And it says, driver, here, and hands you control, which is about enough time to alert you before you smack into something. But eventually, self-driving cars, they're talking about taxis not having a cab driver in them. They're talking about long-distance truckers not having a driver on board. All of these things are going to happen. And but this, in terms of seniors, this can help people keep their independence and keep mobile. They don't have to drive. The AI can drive for them. And we've already seen parts of this technology with Android Auto and maps in the car and turn-by-turn guidance. There's still a couple of bugs in there. Some people have turned into a canal or something that was mislabeled on the map, and a few things like that. But those things will be ironed out. I will tell you that it was not so long ago, probably 20 years ago, when they had a race for autonomous vehicles across the desert in California. The first year, no car made it through the course. They all came a cropper somehow. They either had an accident or they got confused and stopped. The computer rebooted or whatever. It just wouldn't work. And they held this contest every year. And now just about every car is able to pass through it. And yes, there have been accidents with AI cars. Every AI car accident is actually recorded, and they try to learn lessons from it. Probably 80% of the accidents that AI cars are in is somebody else hitting them. Nothing to do with the AI at all. There have been a couple of times when AI have made serious mistakes and people have been hurt. But when you consider how many mistakes regular drivers make, it just shows that human beings are not very good at analyzing statistics very well. In terms of maintaining independence, smart technologies can really help out a lot. Smart technologies will allow you to, how many times have you gone to bed and you think, did I turn the oven off or not? Now you got to get up and flip your way into the kitchen and check, only to find you did turn it off and now you're wide awake and can't get back to sleep. Well, we have smart home devices now that can do that for you. You have stoves, and I talked about my refrigerator. I can be out shopping and I can pull up the cameras on my refrigerator. It'll show me what's inside. Now, do I have enough of milk? And I can look at the camera on my fridge and yeah, there's no milk in there. I need to get some milk. Those are very helpful things. I'm going to try a demonstration here of something that, well, let's just, if you can see, well, actually, I don't know whether you can see or not on this, but I'm going to give you a demonstration. I'm going to ask for the status of something. Hey, Google, are the lights in the kitchen on?
The kitchen window light, the kitchen cube light 1, and the kitchen cube light 2 are on. The kitchen counter light is off.
I'm probably 50 feet from that room right now. I hope everybody heard that. But those are I can tell it to turn lights on. I can tell it to turn lights off. I can tell it to set the temperature on a digital thermostat that's on the wall. The thermostat on the wall can learn when I'm home and when I'm not home by sensing my presence, and can set the temperature accordingly. Something my cat doesn't particularly appreciate when I go away for the day and the temperature gets set down. All of those things, they're not terribly expensive. I mean, I probably spent $2,500 on these devices, but that's over a period of time, and they're getting better and they're getting cheaper. You can buy light bulbs now that are you can change the color, you can change the brightness of them, all with your voice on something like I just demonstrated for you. We talked about the robot vacuum cleaners. They're available. I've talked about the fridges, stoves, all of these things. Devices you can wear like Fitbits or smartwatches. I actually have a ring on my finger which can monitor my pulse, my blood pressure, motion, my body temperature, all on a ring. And it's charged for 7 days. I don't have to worry about it. And I can get reports on any of those things. So these devices can help maintain your independence. They can help you stay in your own home. They can help you do things that you might not or might no longer be physically able to do. Cognitive support. One of the things that seniors do unfortunately have to worry about is, as we get older, our brains age a little bit. There is such a thing. They call it the threshold or doorway effect. You say, I need to do something. You get up and you go into the next room. And as soon as you walk through that door, you think, what the hell was I coming in here for? Those are the kinds of things which AI can help you with. You can ask AI to remind you at something of a certain time. Like before this, I was reminded to log in on this early so that I could make sure that everything was working properly before I came in. I can say, I want to put my keys down at a place where I don't normally. So I can say, hey, remind me of where I put my keys when I ask you. And then when you're looking for your keys, you can say, where did I put my keys? And it'll say, you left your keys on blah, blah, blah. Like those are all things that can help you. They're not going to change the cognitive decline that you might experience, but they're a way of compensating for it and making your life less frustrating. As is illustrated here on the screen, there are programs designed to play games. Not robots, but programs today can play at master level chess and other games. So if you want to play a game, you can probably find an application for your smartphone or your computer that will allow you to do it. And there's always virtual reality. And you see these strange people with these kind of goggles on their face. And what they're seeing is they're seeing a different world than you're seeing. They may see the world you're seeing, but they're going to see other things imposed on top of it. There was I can't remember the name of the game now. It was a real fad a few years ago where Pokemon, where you went to find these characters and you looked at your phone and you could see the picture around you, but then you'd see a little Pokemon thing there that didn't exist, but it was on your computer screen and you could go and collect it. I was never quite sure about the point of all that, but it fascinated a lot of people for a long time. And those are all things, as you know, it's really a case of use it or lose it. I mean, there are certain illnesses and conditions that doesn't matter how you use your brain, there's going to be some decline. But if you keep using your brain, now in my day, of course, the thing was, well, we do crossword puzzles or things like that. But now there are other things that can be far more interesting, far more amusing, and they use your brain and they keep things working. Safety and security. One of the things that's very useful to have is they have these little tiny things called air tags, and they're like a little medallion with a loop on them. And you can hook that loop into somebody's belt or on their keychain or whatever. And it has a GPS tracker. It knows where it is. And you could put something like that. Let's say you had there's a senior who has a tendency to roam. You could put one of these trackers in their wallet or, on their keychain or whatever, and you would be able to look on your phone and know exactly where that is. Now, some of this technology is prone to abuse, like somebody could put a tracker on your car that you don't know about. But if you start using this technology, you get to the point where people can, your phone will recognize there's a tracker, an unknown tracker in your car. I was go out doing photography a lot, and the girl I was with left her camera in my car, camera bag, and it has smart tag in it. And as I got in my car, it said, "Alert, you've got an unknown tracker in your car that's kind of followed you around a little bit." And then I looked at, oh, okay, there's her camera bag. I knew what it was. I didn't think Angelina Jolie was stalking me, so I was a little disappointed there. You can also have home security systems that are easy to use. They can recognize you when you come to your door and unlock the door for you. They know when you've left. They can monitor things. They can be aware that you've got cats that like to climb and are going to ignore certain things. And it can detect unusual activities. You've got sensors that can listen for the sound of breaking glass and can call the police, call your loved ones, and alert you if you're not home. And there are also technology that can be used to detect fraud. You get emails from places or telephone calls from scammers. If AI is listening to the conversation, they can detect whether that's a fraud call, and they can advise you what to do about it. And I will tell you that some of these things are getting very sophisticated. Some of them even just want to record your voice. They'll say, "Is this so-and-so?" And you say, "Yes." And then they record that yes, and then they can call your bank, and your bank will want to voice authorize, is this blah blah blah, and then they play back the recording of you saying yes. And say, oh, okay, we know who you are. So that it kind of cuts both ways. There are, however, some challenges to using this technology, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that most seniors did not grow up with this technology. Our grandkids are going to be fine. They grew up with this technology. They never get their noses out of their smartphones. They are going to consistently work with this technology because it's familiar with them. Seniors are going to have to spend a little bit of time on the front end learning about it. But with AI, the technology is getting a lot easier. Digital education and literacy is going to be a big barrier for seniors. There are also concerns about privacy and data security. I mean, if you're going to have an AI companion that you talk to, you might tell it things you wouldn't want anybody to know, just as you're having a conversation. And where's that data being stored? Who has charge of it? Who looks after it? Who has access to it? Those are all considerations. The other thing is that this technology costs money. In fact, it's estimated that AIs like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini are using so much computing power. Microsoft is actually talking about building a nuclear power plant next to one of their data centers to power it. The amount of power that a simple query could use $10 worth of electricity in general, because these things are thousands of computers all linked together in special ways, and hard drives and everything else running, and all of that stuff has to be kept powered. And the old way of doing a Google search used a little bit of compute, maybe 5 cents worth of electricity. Well, now the same query given to ChatGPT might cost $10 in electricity. So it's a bit of a trade-off. The other issue is affordability. This stuff costs money, and seniors living on limited incomes may not have the money to purchase some of this equipment. So there's a question of access there. And then finally, this is one I hesitated putting in here, but AI can help you do end of life planning. It can help you organize documents, create your accounts and your expenses, give you reminders about will or estate planning. All of these things can be done with AI. And it can also help support decision making around end of life decisions and comfort care. I mean, in Canada, we have one of the best, it's called MAID, Medical Assistance in Dying, that you can apply to a doctor, and the process you can go through so that you don't have to die by inches of cancer or some other extremely debilitating and painful disease. You can get immediate relief and end your suffering. Other countries in the world are talking about doing this, and they're looking at Canada as a bad example, which I think is a little silly. But AI can help make decisions like this, can help you organize your thoughts and make decisions. So there's a lot of stuff about AI that it can assist you, but you also have to be careful with it as well. So now the question is, are we going to have the nice friendly robot on the left? Are we going to have the Terminator like Arnold on the right? And I don't know which way this is going to go. They're already using AI in the war in Ukraine. They have drones with explosive on them, and they're learning how to recognize tanks, and they're flying straight into them without. They used to have, or they have jammers to jam the drones as they come in close. Well, now the drone doesn't need communication. It can say, that's a Russian tank, and hit it without any interference from the radio interference that the tank is emitting. At some point, they're going to look and they're going to start recognizing Russian uniforms. And AIs are going to start making decisions about who to kill. So that's a concern. I've spent most of this talking about the left side of this equation. And there's tremendous benefits, but we're in a bit of an arms race. It's like the 1950s all over again. You remember duck and cover and all those sorts of things? Well, now it's AI, and North Korea, China, Russia, they're all furiously trying to develop AI for their own purposes. And the West is trying to develop AI as well. And the problem is, how do you balance this? How do you keep a measure of safety and morality? Boy, I'm a popular guy today. How do you keep safety and morality and all these things balanced with the fact your enemy might be developing something that's not? So the question then becomes, which future? If we don't make the right decisions, Whittier may have been right in his poem. Of all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest of these, it might have been. I'd like to thank you for your attention. And I always enjoy talking about this sort of thing. I've done about 5 or 6 presentations, all focused differently. Usually I end up scaring the crap out of everybody about my AI presentation, but I hope this one was a little bit more friendly, and I would be very happy to take any questions. As soon as I stop